Happy International Women's Day! Whoop, 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 whoop. That's right, it's my favourite day of the year, International Women's Day. A day for celebrating the amazing achievements of women, for lifting up and empowering women, and also recognising what needs to be done to create true equality for everyone. As this is a booktube channel, of course, I have some book recommendations for you for International Women's Day. So, here I have 5 non-fiction feminist books, and there's a bit of a variety. I've tried to pick a selection so that no matter what you're looking for or what sort of level you're coming in at, that there is something for you. I've also made sure that there's a really diverse group of writers represented here so that all different facets, or some of the different facets of feminism, are covered. We can't cover all because I would need more than 5 books to do that. But hopefully we've got some of our bases covered here. So without further ado, let's get to the books. First of all, a very famous book, Invisible Women by Caroline Criado-Perez. I read this last year and it made me so mad, but also was like, it just blew my mind. It blew my mind. There were lots of things that I sort of was aware of in this book, but so many things I wasn't. So this book aims to demonstrate how the world is very literally built for men. So the way that infrastructure favours men, the way that our day-to-day society is structured favours men, the way that business and healthcare, etc., every aspect of our lives is set up with men in mind, not usually consciously, but usually because men were the people at the table making those decisions in the first place. Each chapter focuses on a different aspect of life, be it technology or travel or medicine or whatever it is, and shows how, at the moment as things are, they are suiting men better, and then showing how changes would improve everyone's lives and benefit everyone, because feminism is for everyone and it's all about equality. Funnily enough, having a diverse group of people making the rules means that rules are better for everyone. Having a diverse group of people inventing things means that they suit more people. So on that level, none of it should be groundbreaking, but somehow it is. And the number of things that you just never thought about, even if you consider yourself a well-educated, well-read feminist, the number of things that you probably haven't thought about is mind-boggling. So it will make you mad, but it will also open your eyes to this whole world around you. And if you don't follow her on Twitter, you should follow her on Twitter, because she continues her work on Twitter. Next up is The Guilty Feminist by Deborah Frances White. This is based on her podcast of the same name. And whereas Invisible Women was more about the sort of overview of how the world is structured, then The Guilty Feminist is much more about the individual. And although it does include that sort of wide-reaching world stuff as a case of this is why things are the way they are, it's then about how you can make the changes in your life, whether that is individual empowerment of yourself or spotting ways around you that you can make a change and improve things for other people. Of all of the books on this list, this is the one that has influenced my own actions the most, because it is about those small everyday actions that you can take, and also about showing the small everyday actions that we do that exacerbate inequality or the way that some of our actions are influenced by the patriarchy. This book is like, let me tell you how you can improve all these aspects of your life. So it's a bit like, it's like a self-help feminist book, but also everyone else help feminist book, because it helps you to help others. Because it's written by a comedian and a podcast host, it is very readable. It's got sort of aspects of memoir in there as well. So I think this is a great introduction if you are looking for sort of an introduction to feminist thinking in your everyday life. There's a whole sort of subgenre of feminist fiction which is books that are about women through history. And so of this sort of subsection, I've chosen The History of the World in 21 Women by Jenny Murray. And just as the title says, it's a history of the world in 21 women. She also has one about specifically the history of Britain. I think that was the first one and this was like the second one. Obviously this one has a much bigger outlook and covers women from all around the world, from all different eras and different cultures, and it's just a really nice way of introducing yourself to finding out about some people you've never heard of. I think it's fair to say that chances are you haven't heard of all of the women in this book. So no matter where you're from, it is a great introduction to people from other places and the sort of wide-reaching different cultures we all grow up in. But all of these women have defied the odds, have gone against the grain to achieve something amazing. Next up is my personal favourite book on this list. This book was just, I read it, 5-6 years ago, and I'm still blown away by it. And that is Of Women by Shami Chakrabarti. This book is quite short, but also the most thorough investigation and explanation of the patriarchy and inequality and how we can fix it that I've ever seen. It's incredible. Each chapter has a different focal point and it discusses how the topic of that chapter affects all women across the entire spectrum, all over the world, from the privileged lives that we lead in the West to the poorest people in the poorest societies in the world. For example, the chapter on periods goes from discussing tampon tax to menstruation huts and everything in between, and then starts to explain what needs to be done to fix it. And there's no easy answer. I think that's what this book really hammered home for me, was the complexity of all of these issues, but how it is all tangled together, how it is all one thing, and the importance of every aspect of that. It was a true global look at inequality, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's a bit of a slow read, it's quite dense, there's a lot in there, but it is worth it. The final book for the main part of this video, which I actually finished yesterday, is Your Silence Will Not Protect You by Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde is a very famous feminist campaigner and activist from the second half of the 20th century. She describes herself as black, lesbian, feminist, mother, poet. She's all of those things and more. And this book is a collection of her essays and poems. I believe it's the first time there's been like a collection of her work published in the UK. It was only published a few years ago. And what a writer. She's amazing. Such an amazing writer. As you can tell, I've tabbed a load of my favourite moments. And her focus is a lot on intersectional feminism and why we need intersectional feminism, what it means, why it's important, and what needs to be done. It was such a good insight into her life and the lives of women, and especially black women, living in the 60s and 70s and 80s. I mean, she is a truly amazing writer. So you just do yourself a favour and read some Audre Lorde. Just incredible, absolutely incredible. I cannot recommend it highly enough. So those are the 5 books that I'm recommending that I have read. As always, I'm going to finish off my recommendations with 3 books from my TBR. So first of all, A Vindication of the Rights of Women by Mary Wollstonecraft. I know, I haven't read this. I'm as shocked as you are. I have read 2 of the chapters, which were published as part of the Penguin Big Ideas series, I think. But this is the full thing. I can't believe I haven't read the full thing. It's got to happen. It's one of the, I think the first, if not one of the first feminist texts, and is just, from what I have read already, depressing in how little has changed, but also so inspirational in terms of the knock-on effect that this text had. Mary Wollstonecraft is iconic for a reason, and I can't wait to find out more about what she has to say. The next one is Betraying Big Brother by Lita Hong Fincher, with the subtitle The Feminist Awakening in China. I am fascinated by Chinese politics and culture. I visited China a couple of times and it's an incredible place, but so different from our Western perspective. And I got really interested in feminism in China as to what it looked like, because it's not something I knew anything about, and I did a bit of research and this book sort of kept cropping up. So I'm very excited to read it and to learn more about the feminist work that's going on in China. Obviously with the title Betraying Big Brother, I think it's going to be a lot about the Chinese government and their way of operating, and how feminist campaigning rubs up against that. And finally, on my TBR, Strong Female Lead by Awa Madawi. I picked this one up in the Waterstones half price sale this Christmas, and I was sort of drawn in by the title, and then I read the blurb and I was like, yes, I am sold. At the start of this pandemic, there were a fair few articles floating around about how many of the countries that were faring the best had female leaders, and what was it about their leadership that had improved their country's chances of getting through this pandemic in one piece. Places like Germany, New Zealand were doing very well, especially at the start of the pandemic. And so I think this book sort of looks at how female leadership differs from male leadership, and how that is a good thing, and how women make good leaders. So I'm intrigued, because so often when we talk about the specifically more girl power end of feminism, that women can do anything a man can and they can do it just as well. And I think it's going to be interesting to read a book about how we do things differently and why that is an advantage. I think this kind of brings it full circle nicely, with Invisible Women being about how we need diversity at every level of building our society, and that's kind of what this book is about as well. So that is it for my International Women's Day recommendations. Let me know your recommendations in the comments. I would love to have more recommendations. I'm always looking for new books to read. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Ta-ra for now.